Hi, Kat Chancellor here with Stamp Art Connection in stampartconnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I wanted to show you a couple of coloring techniques using the Layers of Beauty bundle. Now, I did do a couple of shorts on Facebook or YouTube where I kind of ran through it very fast. I created these two cards using the masks. Now the masks come with the bundle. You get the stamp set, you get the masks, and these are decorative masks, and then you get the dies. And the dies will fit the shape of what you cut out for the mask as well as for the stamp set. So I want to kind of focus on the masks because these are often the ones that people, they're beautiful, but people really don't know how to color. They're a little intimidated by these. I wanted to go ahead and do these as a tutorial. To do this, we are going to use a watercolor technique with this one. So you're going to need a piece of watercolor paper, and I have a piece right here. And then for this one, we're going to just be using our blending brushes, and I'm just going to bring my tools in. I'm going to be using my watercolor brushes for this technique, and then I'm going to use my blending brushes, and I have both sizes. I have the large and the small for this technique. We're going to start with the watercolor. I'm going to have my heat gun here on the side because one of the things that I kind of learned from this technique is that as you're building your layers with your watercolor, if you don't let that first layer kind of dry, it's going to kind of muddle the second layer. I'm going to have a piece of paper towel, and what I'm doing here is I have a craft mat that I'm using, and it's just a sticky craft mat, but what it does is that it kind of lets my paper stay right here, and then I'm going to pull out my masks. These have a right side and a wrong side, and the reason why you need to know that is because you have to have the right side in order for the dies to fit whatever you're going to use for the mask. I did it this way and it was the wrong side, so I had to kind of flip my image over and cut it from the bottom using my dies. I just want to make sure that you're aware there's a right side and a wrong side, and the right side is the notch is going to be on the left, and you can see the number, and you can actually run your finger, and that little number is kind of raised up a little bit, if you can see that. They're numbered 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have 5 layers that we're going to be working with. First one, which is number 1, and this is going to be our base layer, so we're just going to lay that down. And you can use any kind of tape that you would like. As you work through this, you may not need all of the tapes. Now, as I stick my paper here, my paper will pretty much stay. Now, what you can do, if you're a little nervous about this, you can, and I'm gonna bring this down to the bottom, and then I'm going to grab my pencil, and I'm just going to go ahead and just do a pencil line like this. Alright, that is going to register my paper to my mat so that the next one I'll know where to put that right there. Okay, so that's kind of a little trick to kind of help you line these up. Alright, and then I can always just put my mint tape right there. These are going to get messy, but they'll survive. And then I'm going to look at the colors that I want to use. Now, the color that's one of the new in colors is Pretty in Pink, and I'm going to pick analogous colors because I've got at least 3 layers for the flower. So if I go over here and I look at my color wheel, and I have Pretty in Pink, which is over here, and this is more of a red-orange color, Pretty in Pink. I would see that I could go Melon Mambo, Pretty in Pink, and Flirty Flamingo. So I think those are the colors I'm going to pick. Goes Melon Mambo, Pretty in Pink, and Flirty Flamingo. Okay? And that's the order. So this is going to be the darkest. That's going to be the last one we're going to use. This is going to be the second, and then this is going to be my first color. Press my pad together like that, and it's going to put some of the ink on my lid. And then in grabbing my tools, I want to show you that these are old and these have a lot of water. These are newer. I believe these are the ones that are actually part of what's in the catalog. And I kind of like these because I'm kind of familiar with them, but I'm going to put them aside for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a wash, what's known as a wash, for the watercolor. And that's why I kind of like this one. Even though it does put down a lot of color, I want to make sure I have a paper towel and my heat gun, because I just want to put a light wash down. And let me just pull in a little bit here. I'm just kind of pressing and making that wet, and I'm just going to kind of just spread that color, and I'm just more or less spreading the water around, and I'm just going up to the edge right like that. And I'm just trying to get just a, this is kind of the base for my color. And I can just keep add the water. Let the water, you kind of see the water's going to kind of be absorbed by the paper. And that's okay, because even as the water sits on the paper, you can just kind of add some more of the color. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because that's actually the watercolor technique is very, very subtle and has lots of color variation in it. And we just kind of want to add just a little bit. I'm just going to kind of press my finger down, because I'm just trying to just get this kind of this base down. Just kind of add all these little pieces and parts, and if I miss a little bit, I can see. And I'm not trying to stick my brush underneath. I'm trying to keep my brush kind of up and down, so that my water and the pigment does not go underneath the mask. Because if you kind of attack it from that direction, that's what's going to happen for these smaller ones. And you can see I can go ahead and put my brush up and down, and I can just kind of go around this perimeter here, just to make sure that I kind of have that layer. Okay, so that's pretty much how that's done. So now we're going to take this off, and this was mask number 1. We're going to set this aside, and that's what it looks like. Now, before I do the next color, which is going to be Pretty in Pink, I'm just going to make sure that my brush is clean. Then I'm just going to turn this on low, just because I want to just kind of... Okay, then I'm going to get number 2. We're going to put number 2 right there, and I'm lining it up to the top of that mask. So now we're going to do the same thing. Take my ink pad, press it, get some ink there, and I probably want to go with a smaller brush. So this is where I'm going to kind of go with Well, I think I can go with this one. I think I can control. Well, actually, this one's a little bit smaller. Let's go with this one. Okay. And I like to kind of squeeze my brush, maybe put some water there in my lid, and gotta make sure this is lined up. And I'm going to move this over here so you can kind of see, and I can keep this lined up. So I'm going to add this, and I'm just going to kind of keeping. I just have my towel here because I don't want it to get too wet. Okay, so that looks pretty well covered. I can see I haven't covered that area there, but I just want to make sure this area doesn't look like it's been. So you can kind of see where I've added the pigment. You can kind of see where I've added the pigment, and now we're just going to lift it up. So now you can kind of see that there's a little bit of difference. And all I'm going to do is I want to make sure I kind of dry. There's a little bit of wetness there. I want to kind of dry that off, because when I add my next layer, okay, so I kind of dried that off a little bit, and you can see that when I add my next layer, so 3 is the last of the flowers, so we're just going to put that there like that. Now this, I'm just going to kind of clean my brush, this is going to be the darkest color right there. So you can see that I have 2 layers, and now this is my 3rd layer, and this is going to be the darkest layer. So again, I'm just going to pull this out, and I'm just going to put a little bit of water in my tray just so I can kind of pick up. But I have my paper towel here because I don't want my brush. And here I'm kind of picking up the pigment. And maybe I don't want the brush too wet, so I'm kind of using this paper towel right here to kind of. So let's start up here, and I'm going to kind of do this kind of up and down, right? Because we really don't want this to get underneath. We don't want it to kind of seep underneath our mask. So we want to kind of keep our brush, now that we're doing small spaces, we want to do our brush kind of up and down. And all I'm doing is just very gently adding the pigment. And I'm just kind of going up and down, kind of holding my brush perpendicular to my paper. Okay, and I think I have all my little spots, so now we can pick that up, and look how beautiful that came out. And it's just bleeding a little bit, and I just want to kind of stop that, so I'm just going to kind of throw and that will kind of stop any more bleeding on that. So now let's just go ahead and clean this brush off and get all the pink out of this, because for our last two layers are going to be the layers for the leaves. So this is 4, and we're going to lay this one, because we have it registered there, it's going to lie very nicely. And the two colors I have are Shy Shamrock and Shaded Spruce. And again, I picked the Shy Shamrock and the Shaded Spruce because they're right next to each other. So I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is Shy Shamrock. And I have my brush. I'm going to take this thicker brush now. So I'm just going to pick, and I have my paper towel right here. Again, just kind of use my brush kind of in an up and down, not too much water. Some of this is kind of bleeding. I have to go to a drier brush. Okay, so I think I've gotten all those. So there you go. And I'm going to just dry. I've got a little wet spot. Just kind of dry this a little bit. This is number 4. Okay, this is number 5. Okay, so that's number 5. I'm going to use this. This is a really nice pen because it really doesn't bleed a lot of water. And I don't really want to bleed a lot of water. I've got my paper towel here because okay, so there you go. Isn't that pretty? The colors are very distinct, the layers are very distinct, and there's a little bit of bleeding but not much, so I think that really turned out well. Okay, so let's put this aside because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of cardstock. I grab 2 layers here. So let me grab our Pretty in Pink. And we're going to grab number 1. We're just going to go ahead and I'm just going to put it right there. So I'm going to lay this down like that, and then I'm going to grab my brushes. I'm going to use my big brush for the big stuff, and then I'm going to use this little brush is going to hit for kind of like our small accent. So we're just going to kind of grab this. We're going to hold this down. We're just going to kind of... Now, I'm going to do a technique here where I'm just going to kind of hit kind of around the edges of our mask. You kind of see how it's light in the middle? Okay. And then I'm going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. Now I'm not registering this like I did the last one. Because it's on this glass mat and I have, you know, it's all about if you have control. Okay? Alright. So that's number 1. So now I'm going to take number 2 and I'm going to lay it down, and you can pretty much see where these go because that's going to cover up right there. And I can pretty much see. Alright, and then I'm going to really get this, inside piece. And did you see how it kind of gives you a little bit of, there's a little bit of a variegation there. We're going to do the same thing over here. And I have to be careful because this little piece right here kind of wants to, so I can kind of grab the ink with my brush. Kind of go straight down. And right here I missed this one, so hold on, I can very easily line this up. See, I missed that right there. Okay, so that's number 2. You have to be careful because you can kind of bend these loose pieces. Okay, so now let's get number 3. And we're going to change this brush. We're going to go over to this. And I've got a smaller field here, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do the same thing. This one is going to line up like that because it's going to hit those holes there. Okay, you see how pretty? And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing. So these holes line up with these holes right there. And there you go. Okay, so this is 4. And I think I can pretty much do it. Got a small green brush right here. So I think I can do it because these really are not very big. Okay. So I don't have it registered, but if you kind of look, you can kind of line these up rather nicely. Okay. And I'm going to do this lightly, and you really don't have to put a lot of pressure. And see, and I did the same thing. I've got some color variation going on there. Let's just put this over here. This edge right here, goes right along that flower. and just hold it firmly, but then just kind of very delicately just kind of okay, there you go. And I'm going to show you in a minute how that lines up. Then we're going to take number 5. This is our last one. I'm going to use the same brush and this one lines up very nicely within the leaves itself. There you go. Look how absolutely beautiful those came out. And see, we used our color wheel and look at that. We just got these really beautiful. This one just a little bit more kind of muted and subtle, and then look at that. That is just beautiful. I love that. Alright, so now we're going to grab our die, and as you can see, our die is going to fit perfectly over what we've just done. And all I need to do here, I'm just going to work to line that up. And I am going to tape it in place. Because I have it perfectly lined up, and I don't want to move it when I run it through the Now what this does, it gives us this little piece here, and we can now pop, this piece can get popped up like that. Okay, so I've already cut my pieces, so now we're going to build the base cards. And how I'm going to approach this is I have 3 pieces of cardstock that's cut 4 1/4 by 11, and then I went ahead and scored it. So these are going to be my base cards here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of okay, so these are my 3 base cards. Now I also brought in some of this designer series paper, and this is the 24-26 end color sheets. I just kind of like some of the patterns here, so I am going to pick a pattern. For example, I pulled in the end color here, and I'm Shy Shamrock. I kind of want to show you if we took this and we just did a very simple card. There you go. But as you kind of play with this a little, you can kind of begin to, you can kind of have fun and begin to kind of layer, add some layers to this. Now you can leave this background plain, or we can just simply emboss that. And I think what I'm going to emboss it with is, and I have several choices here in embossing folders. I have several choices in embossing folders, but because this pattern is kind of, it's very detailed. Now this embossing folder, if you kind of start looking at design elements, this embossing folder has some curves, as we have curves in our circle, and we have curves with our flowers. So you kind of begin, it's called a design vocabulary. You kind of introduce some ideas visually that kind of begin to link up together. So we're going to use that for this one. Now for this one, I'm going to take a piece of black cardstock that I'm going to layer, and I have a piece of white cardstock that I cut out using our Spotlight on Nature dies, and then I can put this one right here, and again I can use this embossing folder because again it kind of introduces the curvilinear elements, the curves, the flowing kind of loopy design that flows with our flowers. And then for this one, I'm going to pick my background layer. It's going to be in the designer series paper. It's going to give me kind of a muted pink background. I'm going to layer it with a piece of the Shy Shamrock, and then I'm just using a very simple die from the Spotlight on Nature, and this is our watercolor, and then this is going to go very nicely right there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and emboss these. Now you don't have to, but I want to show you what a difference it makes when we kind of add these embossed elements to our layering. Okay, so here is our embossed piece, and I just want to show you look how interesting that looks with the pink, kind of our curvilinear distressed tile, and then this is our watercolored piece. So here were the original cards that I made. Okay, right here. These are my original cards. Alright, I took it to the next level because in doing these cards, I realized that I needed more contrast between the different layers of the masks. So what I did is I went to my color wheel, picked Melon Mambo, I picked Flirty Flamingo, and I picked Pretty in Pink. Okay, so these were the three colors I chose, and then for my green, I came over here and I picked, if I went down to Pretty in Pink, Shy Shamrock, I'm picking Shy Shamrock and Shaded Spruce. These are going to be my two colors. So when I did that, look at the result. They just explode with color and with contrast. Even with the watercolor, they just explode with color and contrast. Where this is a little bit muted, this one comes out and just a lot more vibrant in using the watercolor technique. So that's what I learned from doing that. And then this, again, picking those colors using my color wheel, I was able to, these were very muted, and then I was able to pick and come up with a more vibrant color selection for my masks. I then used my dies, and these dies will fit your masks, and then you have some additional dies that will cut out pieces, and that's kind of what I did here. Is I kind of cut those pieces and I just kind of popped that up just to kind of offer a little bit more interest, right? Kind of pop it up, add a little bit more interest, but the dies cut out the piece. I also, for this one, there's some additional pieces in here that I used I just kind of added some other pieces in this particular card sample. I used the Distress 3D embossing folder, rectilinear pattern, and that was from the 24-26 in color patterns, which they have lots of choices. I also used the Spotlight on Nature. These are just beautiful dies. You have some very nice options between those dies. So there you have it, using the new in colors, Shy Shamrock, Pretty in Pink, and then using some old favorites like Shaded Spruce, Flirty Flamingo, and our Melon Mambo. We were able to use our blending brushes as well as our watercolor pens and these wonderful masks that are all part of the Layers of Beauty bundle. I really hope that this tutorial has been of value, that you've learned that it's not only the technique, but it's also the colors that you choose using your color wheel. If you haven't already, please hit like. All the products will be available on 1 May as they are part of the new catalog. I will have project details on my blog, and if you're looking for a demo, please consider joining my team. Consider joining as a hobbyist for $99 to enjoy a 20% discount, which will be especially nice with the new catalog coming out. If you are a demo and you like my content, please support my channel by hitting like, share, and I always appreciate a comment. This is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. Happy stamping!